All right, we're live. Perfect. This worked. So Google makes you schedule it for some reason. I'm not sure why, but should be live here. I'm just going to check the channel. There's no way to turn off that scheduling for some reason. I have no idea why, but let's see. All right, this is working. Hey, perfect. All right, so I see a couple people popping in right now. Can everyone just try? Oh, Roman, hi John, perfect. All right, thank you so much, Roman. I appreciate you. Welcome to our live every Monday, 9:30 a.m. Pacific, or actually it's Mountain now. Then it's going to go back to Pacific when things change back into a non-daylight savings time. I really hate daylight savings time. I think we should just get rid of it completely. It just messes everybody up. It doesn't really make much of a difference. Roman, I see you came prepared. I see you dropping in questions already, so let's get started. All right. Should we make a bid adjustment for RLA search campaign when using smart bidding? I heard that smart bidding adjusts percentage on RLSA, and should RLSA be on observation or create a campaign and use targeting instead of observation? So with smart bidding, I still will use a positive adjustment. Smart bidding will adjust, however, it will adjust more aggressively. I find that for RLSA, it's actually better, in my opinion, to create a separate campaign rather than just add a RLSA to the existing search campaign. Reason being is because I've actually found that with an RLSA, your cost per click can be much less, almost 80% less. So because they're in a remarketing audience, it's going to be a little bit less competitive. So when you create a separate campaign with that RLSA audience, set it to targeting and then bid really aggressively. Reason being is because I know those people for the RLSA I really want. If they've searched, they've been to my website and they left, I will pay dearly to get them to come back. So and then I also can adjust the daily budget. And then I also can use a UTM parameter to tell me which lead came from which campaign. You still can do that inside of a RLSA in a normal search campaign. It's a little bit more difficult. I find it easier to control budgets, control bids, and using UTM parameters when that lead lands in the CRM tool. You can actually say, okay, this one came from my RLSA campaigns. What is the quality versus what I'm normally getting? And actually, you might find that maybe you have less quality. Maybe they're more indecisive. Maybe they're searching for more competitors. Who knows? But you can actually generate a lead quality factor a little bit easier using UTM underscore campaign equals search underscore RLSA, whatever you want to use. So I like having control under a different campaign, but you don't have to do it that way. That's just the way that I would prefer. Josh, hey Josh, how's it going? Cecilia, hey Cecilia, how are you? Good to see you as well. All right. Next one. I have a branded search campaign and non-branded campaigns running, and I'm ready to start RLSA campaigns. Should I make a whole new campaign for my marketing audience, or add the audience? Sorry, it's broken up here. Or add the audience to a brand campaign and make a bid adjustment on that audience. You have brand search and non-branded, and you're ready to start RLSA. So I would do an RLSA non-brand. There's no reason for me to make it an RLSA on brand. You're going to get those conversions any which way, shape, and form, and actually want to pay much less for brand traffic. So I would create a different campaign, copy and paste your existing non-branded campaign, add the audiences that you want for the RLSA, and then set those to targeting. Christopher, hello, John. Do you separate search campaigns by match type, exact in one, phrase in the other? So it depends. Each client has its own unique scenario. I don't really prefer one versus the other. If lead quality is extremely important, for e-commerce, I never do that. For lead generation, I do. And for lead generation, I need to know lead quality over anything else. And so if you are using UTM parameters and you have some sort of essentially auto tagging tool, and you can identify where those leads came from inside of a CRM tool, and you're measuring lead quality, then yes, I will use a exact match, kind of like the top performing key phrases, and I will bid $20 over the first position. I do that for our campaigns. I will own that #1 spot for the keywords I know bring us a very high quality lead. I also only count high quality leads in Google Ads. I don't count calls. I don't count chats. I only count the people that have over a specific threshold of budget. People that come to us with, sub $2,000, sub $1,500, sub $1,000 leads, I actually don't allow Google Ads to count those as conversions. And then we actually ask them to go back in and refill out the form if they believe that they could afford more budget. Reason being is that if and when I do use an automated bidding strategy, I have very clear data about exactly who I want to bid really aggressive for, and I'm going to make very expensive decisions off of that. So lead quality, if you have your phrase match campaigns, you kind of are treating them like a broad match modifier campaign, how it used to be. So I would stick the phrase match in one campaign, and the ones that I know I need based on search terms, those will be added as an exact match with really high CPCs. So that would be a good scenario that I would say. Pretty much the only scenario that I really use that strategy quite often is when I know that lead quality is a factor I need to be #1, because I need to be the first one considered. I don't want to capture the leftovers or the people that are reaching out to a lot of competitors. So imagine, if you offer a service, no one's going to skip the first 3 people and go right to the 4th and be like, you're my first one. They work top down. That's just how it goes. So John, what do you think? Is it true that Apple cut off third-party cookies for Facebook because Facebook creating its own shop and games instead of Facebook? Our App Store has a rule to not make another shop in an app. So I think Google and Apple teamed up to crush Facebook. What I think is happening is that you're going to start to see an Apple version of Google Ads. I think that's what Apple's gearing up for. I think that they're trying to keep all of the data for themselves and then launch their own version of an Apple search. Google pays Apple $12 billion a year to be the default search engine on all of the iPhones, and they do that on purpose. And so those two teamed up, I think, to kind of crush Facebook, because Google didn't get affected by the iOS update. If at any. Google said they might have seen like a 5% difference in conversion tracking, maybe, where Facebook just became like non-existent in conversion tracking. So I think Google and Apple teamed up to crush Facebook, and I think that that's going to come back and bite Google soon, as I think Apple is going to create their own type of ads ecosystem. That's my hypothesis. All right, let's see. We only receive 30% or less of the clicks we pay for. It is not a problem of speed, because we had much worse speed before we got much more traffic in relationship to the clicks. This seems to be getting worse, and load time is getting better. We suspect a competitor is clicking on our ads. Do you recommend trying a company that prevents competitors from clicking on our ads? So I would say try ClickSees. I've seen the best results out of ClickSees. I like them the most. We use them for some clients, especially what you could be getting, Cecilia, is VPN traffic. So VPN from like click farms and that kind of stuff, and I think they're most prevalent like India and Pakistan is where click farms usually are from. We got frauded with one of our clients to the tune of like 10 grand from a click farm in India. ClickSees, we added it, and it's actually been blocking it pretty well. So I would say that check ClickSees. Also, let me see something I can help. Let me do this real quick. Cecilia, if you believe that you're getting fraud, I just dropped a link in the chat. There's actually something called Click Quality Form. We just got a 10 grand refund by filling this out. So what I would say is, if you do believe that there is fraud in the account, fill out this form, and just explain and show all of the reasonings for which you believe that there's fraud in the account. And they'll actually go through and open a ticket investigation and then come back and say, hey, we found it. We actually refunded you this money. So start there to see if you can get some of the costs back from Google. But then also I would try ClickSees. I can't tell you, it's too hard on a Q&A, but I would say that what you could look at is the invalid clicks and the invalid click rate. They're columns in the account setting or in the account level of Google Ads, and see if Google is identifying that there is click fraud going on anyway. There's going to be refunds in real time. So that's a way for you to see if Google is at least capturing some of it. And then if there is, then it'd probably be a good idea to use ClickSees. I think it's a free trial too. So if you start a free trial and it doesn't really work, then you don't really have to pay anything. Let's see. I have a client who sells 2 very distinct products on the same web page. Is it better for an algorithm separate in 2 campaigns with different conversion tags? So I have a client who sells 2 very distinct products on the same web page. Is it better for the algorithm to separate in 2 campaigns with different conversion tags? Not really. We have clients that sell sometimes 1,000 very distinct products, and we just bundle it up in one smart shopping campaign, unless we need a separate amount by either volume or Pareto's 80-20 rule or ROAS or whatever it may be. But the conversion tag is actually going to go off of GTIN. So what I would say, Roman, is if you don't have GTIN, adding GTIN will have the algorithm treat those two products like 2 separate campaigns. And then, I mean, if you separate the conversions, it's just going to say, did I sell this? Yes. It doesn't matter how it counted, but did I sell this? Yes. It doesn't really, again, matter how it's counted. It just sees those conversions coming through. And then it actually appends an audience to GTIN so that it appends it to that product. I wouldn't see any value in separating them out. You wouldn't really need to do that. As long as you have GTINs on those products, you're doing everything that you could to teach the algorithm a unique conversion data on that product. All right, Cecilia, as traffic decreases, non-valid clicks grow. Okay, so as traffic decreases, non-valid clicks grow. So I'm guessing that's the rate, which means, yeah, it does sound like you have click fraud. Do you see any other cause for this to happen that could better click on our ads? How are 70% of people leaving the site? Yeah, no, that does seem like click fraud, especially if you decrease the traffic, your rate will go up. If you imagine someone just, let's say, clicking 10 times every day, and you used to get 100, now you get 50, well, your rate's going to double because that same person's still sitting there clicking it 10 times. So I would absolutely try ClickSees or even identify. No, ClickSees is going to be best because this way you can just say, hey, if someone clicks more than 2 times, just ban them. That would be probably the best way to do it. All right. After we have, say, 100 conversions per week on manual, when we should switch to TCPA and when to decrease or increase TCPA goal. I'm guessing this is going to be for shopping. I would actually switch over to maximize conversions first and then switch over to TCPA. Or you could jump right into TCPA and have really good results. What I usually find is that if you increase it to, if you increase the bids if you increase the budget and increase the aggressiveness on maximized conversions, you may actually find better results in TCPA. That actually happens quite often. There's a good balance between, should I limit the daily ad spend on maximized conversions, or should I, spike cost and then just throw a TCPA or like a TROAS on? I would test maximize conversions first by limiting this, not limiting the spend, but just controlling the spend. Because maximized conversions sometimes will give you the most amount of conversions for your budget, which is still a low CPA. So I would test that first rather than going from manual right into TCPA. Just an SOP there. We as agencies usually do it because we try to squeeze every single thing that we can for our clients in their budgets. If you're more budget conscious, yeah, you can just jump right into TCPA. What do you think about optimizing shopping campaigns for actual profit, not for revenue? Do you practice this? Yes. So I actually create a custom column called profit. It's the conversion value in a parentheses times 0. Whatever the average profit margin is. If example, if it's 76% profit margin, you just multiply that by 0.76 end parentheses minus the cost. And that's the custom column I create for profit. And I can actually see that I'll sometimes make less sales with less products and make a higher profit. Now, it's a little bit more difficult because you have to have bigger budgets in order to separate the smart shopping campaigns or a shopping campaign with remarketing in order to control that, because if you just kind of bundle 100 products into one, it's just going to sell whatever it can sell. But if you would say, hey, these are my high ROAS goals because I have low margin, or these are my low ROAS goals because I have high margin, optimizing that campaign based on profit is a good way to do it. And that's a custom column, open bracket, conversion value times 0. Whatever the profit margin is, close bracket minus cost, that's the profit. And you can actually create a custom column per campaign and just call them that, and then just look at that column for that campaign. Based on the, essentially the average profit margin of the products in that campaign. So yeah, I do that quite often. It's kind of a standard practice of mine, just to know that if I work autonomously for a client, I can see that they're not going into the red. I want to keep them in the black and not just scale to scale. We typically go after a ROAS goal first to understand, hey, if we dip below 250, you're starting to lose profit. But if you do have accounts that have large ranging prices, $5 items and $1,000 items, it's a good way to understand what profit's coming out of the account. What do you think about adding all interest in search campaign and observation? Yeah, you can. One of our client managers, Allie, actually has a really ninja tactic that she uses to do audience sculpting. And so she'll have two campaigns identical. One has an audience in observation, one has an audience in targeting, and then she'll actually exclude the other audience inside of each other's campaigns so that it's actually funneling the audience into a different campaign. I find that if you add all audiences, sometimes that data is a little bit unreliable because it's like, hey, the people that are purchasing, shoes have an interest in arts and crafts. It's like, well, are those, correlation doesn't equal causation, but if it's consistent, you can leverage it. If I have different search queries for keyword, can we add that close variance like exact on? If I have different search queries for keyword, can we add that? I'm not sure what close variance like exact means. I'm sorry. Can you elaborate a little bit there? Different search queries for a keyword. Yeah. Can we add that closed variance? I'm not sure what that is. Let me know what you're saying here. What do you think about making remarketing on search campaign, adding 2 or 3 broad campaigns and target our audience? What do you think about making remarketing on search campaign, adding 2 or 3 broad campaigns? I'm not sure what that means either. Rowan, would you mind elaborating a little bit, like a scenario? I'm not sure. We speak a different vernacular, so I'm not sure if I'm like a closed variance. I'm not sure what that is. And I actually don't use anything more than one broad campaign, so I'm not sure exactly what you're looking for. But let me know. Michael, hey Michael. Hey John, in a smart shopping campaign, how do you typically handle holiday seasonal products since bids can't be adjusted? Do you remove holiday season products after holiday season? So I actually don't typically create different campaigns for seasonal products. I simply leave them in a larger campaign. The reason is this ecosystem is too slow. It doesn't move fast enough for me to leverage any sort of quick fires of automation in order to win. So seasonal products, they'll be in its own campaign, and then we'll simply just get added more ad spend and less ad spend, depending on time of year. You can still keep the same ROAS goal. A good kind of fallback method is if you have a seasonal type of item and you're saying, hey, it's going to be hot in the spring, okay during summer, and then start to fall off in the winter. Normally what I'll find is that if you wanted to run maximize conversions, you can use a TCPA goal, but keep a really high budget. And this doesn't happen in every account. That's why for Michael, I'm not sure for you if this is going to work. But typically, seasonal products that have high demand, if it's hammocks, like one of our clients' hammocks, that's a good example. People don't really buy hammocks in the wintertime. So I will still keep the campaign on $3,500 a day and a TCPA of 65, and then you'll see that thing all of a sudden just shoot up to the moon. Literally, I have it where I'll share with you on the next mastermind that we're in, Michael, but you'll see it goes from kind of like 2 sales and 3 sales, all of a sudden like 247 sales. Like it just skyrockets in like a week time, and I don't touch the campaign. I just let it say, hey, if you do see a potential to sell this product at $65, you can sell $3,500 worth a day in ad spend. And then keeping that on, all of a sudden you'll see it go up, and then you'll see it start to come down, because it says, well, I can't sell as many people as I could before during my busy season for $65, but I spent $1,000 today instead of $2,000 like it was 2 months ago. And you can actually see it start to teeter off, but your ROAS has stayed the same the entire time. It's been fantastic. So I would say that using kind of safety nets, but allowing the spend to be pretty high. And when I say safety nets, you're gonna have a larger safety net. Can't just be like, hey, if you sell for $5, spend $1,000. It's gonna say I can never really find that. You have to kind of loosen those TCPA targets, allow it to breathe, find, ruin, identify, and then start to scale. So put bumpers on it, maybe a little bit looser bumpers than what you want, and just see where it lands, and then you'll be able to actually start to scale that way. Cecilia, thank you so much, John. You're very welcome. Hopefully you can get a refund. Leads to live. Good to see you again. Yeah, good to see you as well. Ever since I switched my campaigns from target CPA to maximize conversions with a target CPA, my ads seem to be performing less. Have you experienced that before? No, I don't think there's actually a difference between when it was TCPA to maximize conversions with the TCPA. It's literally the same bidding algorithm. Google even says it's the same thing. We just combined it because it didn't make sense to separate them out. It's the same exact thing. So there might be something else going on there. And it depends on if you're e-commerce lead generation, sometimes fourth quarter, especially this time, like right after the Black Friday, Cyber Monday, we usually see a pretty substantial drop off of like e-commerce sales, or even sometimes lead generation because people are on vacation, that kind of stuff. So it seems like there might be something different. I have not seen a inkling of difference from switching that, and just because it's the same exact thing. Google's basically said, yeah, maximize conversions or target CPA. And you actually see the explanation. If you turn off the target on maximize conversions, it says this is going to use maximize conversions. If you add a TCPA, it says this is going to use target cost per acquisition. Like you'll see it actually just tell you that, hey, what you're doing right now is going to give you what you used to have before. It actually gives you a little explanation. So something else might be going on there. Brick. I hope I pronounced that right. Brick. Hey, John, any opinion on what changes affect the algorithm, what not? Changing the ad schedule, adding keywords, audience, updating it. Oh, man. Literally every single button you press. You can absolutely over-optimize a campaign just by making small adjustments. I absolutely hate it. Absolutely hate it when a client says, what have you done this last month? Only because you don't want to measure the success of a campaign based on how much work you do. I can clone a campaign, then delete it, and look like there's 2,000 changes in an account. It just depends. So what we usually try to say is sometimes less is more. Pretty much all the time, less is more. People pay us a lot of money to know what buttons to press at what time, not just press buttons, just to press buttons. So when I say that, I mean, when you're talking about what changes affect the algorithm, literally every single thing does. Video campaigns, as an example, your ad, your landing page URL, your thank you page URL, and your conversion actions, if you never change those, you'll have success forever. Obviously, until you burn an audience. For keywords, if you start to add keywords that are more popular, it gets less, your entire campaign can go down, because now it's sucking up too much of the ad spend in order for the other keywords to not really get a good chance at performing as well as it did before. Anytime you change an ad, it resets your quality score. So that's going to have some downtime. Pinning a headline, that actually takes your ad strength from strong to poor by pinning one headline or one description. Not using RLSAs, you're not going to actually be rewarded with the search impression share that you could have by using RSAs if you're only using ETAs. Those are responsive search ads versus expanded text ads. Counting conversions incorrectly from your attribution model and using too high of a goal in the bidding strategy. So if you're using last click and you're trying to get first click type of success out of a smart shopping campaign, but you're running a brand campaign, that campaign is never going to start. Literally every single thing you do in Google Ads is going to have a major effect. And I even adding a negative keyword, you'll actually see sometimes performance dip for like a week. It's the strangest thing. But just know that every single time you're think of Google Ads like a kid in school, going to first and second and third, and you're like, now you speak Spanish. Okay, now I'm struggling in third, and I'm now I'm better in fourth and fifth, and it's like, okay, ad spend, now you're in fifth grade, here's college. So every single time you think about it, just slow and steady wins the race. Think month over month, year over year, not day over day, week over week. That's how you have to teach Google. And every single day this thing goes on without touching, it's getting better, faster, stronger for a specific goal. But if you're saying, hey, I'm starting a campaign and I'm starting with the end goal in mind, don't keep changing that end goal, because then it's never going to actually progress towards it. So just know, slow and steady wins the race. Every change you do is going to affect everything forever. Everything you could ever imagine, every which way, shape, and form. This is a good golden rule. Don't make changes unless you need to make a change. Let's see. If I have the biggest impression share of an ad group, does that mean I'm the person spending the biggest daily budget in the group of keywords? Yes. Or you might be the only one. So that's generally true. If you have, what I would do actually, Cecilia, is rather than look at just the impression share, look at your auction insights. Auction insights will tell you who else is spending, what they're spending, and then look at those competitors too. What you may find is what I learn quite often is that if I seem to be owning a space that no one else is in, they're not in it for a reason. It may not work. So just know that owning a space is good, owning the right space is the best. So just balance that a little bit. What if Thanksgiving products are still getting clicks eaten up budget after Thanksgiving and conversion goes down because the holiday is over? Yeah, I would absolutely just turn those off then. Or if you can isolate them in a different campaign and reduce spend, that's a good way. But yeah, it's based on result. I have campaigns that have seasonal products that are off season doing very well. I'm not going to shut them off because they're just out of season if they're doing well. So you'll see that I like to make a lot of different campaigns to control the budget. You can't control the budget inside of a campaign of a campaign that has other products or other services inside the campaign. You have to have its own campaign. So I usually like to take if you have Thanksgiving products and they're still getting clicks, chances are they're probably remarketing clicks, which are a little bit less quality. It doesn't really have a good amount of search intent. It's just people that are like, oh yeah, that was cool. I'm gonna buy that later. Did it go on sale because I can pick it up cheap? Oh no, it didn't. All right. So I just shut them off if you can. What do you think about running two smart shopping campaigns with the exact same feed, but one configured with more value to customers and the other is with two smart shopping campaigns with the exact same feed, one's going to just win, and whichever one A earns a conversion first, B has a higher daily ad spend, C has a lower goal. Basically, what Google is trying to look for is the quickest path with the least resistance. It's not going to A/B test a harder path and an easier path or two different paths. It's just to say, well, this campaign's working, this one's not. Just funnel all ad spend right to that one campaign. So if you're using the same products and you have the same ID and they have the same NPN and they have the same GTIN and they have different links, but everything else looks the same, Google's not going to be able to differentiate. You'll have to have a different URL, a different. You can use the same picture, but you have to have a different URL, a different ID, a different GTIN, a different NPN, obviously a different link, then yes, you can. Google has to machine identify that it's something different. Also, setting that up in GMC is nearly impossible because you have to build everything first and then upload it. And sometimes you'll get like duplicate ID issues if it thinks it's the same product. So you're going to run into that as well. But it's a great idea. I just don't think it's going to work. I don't think Google's going to ever recognize it unless you literally have different everything and just see how it works. Awesome. In that case, I know it's not the bidding strategy. How much impact does changing text on my website have on the quality score of the keywords? Is it worth it? So it changes something called landing page experience. Landing page experience, though, also is not just content on the site, it's also site speed. So landing page experience, what I'd recommend is the keyword that's performing and also the search term is also in the ad copy, is also featured high up on the page of the landing page. If you can stick to that as often as possible, that's going to give you the best. But don't take a high-performing keyword that's found as text on the landing page and just remove it. That's only going to hurt you. You're going to end up getting deprioritized and having a higher CPC. So I would actually, I would make sure that looking through search terms and your keywords and your ad copy that's congruent with what's on your website, or at least a landing page that you're sending it to. That's going to give you the best result. But it's not necessarily quality score, although landing page experience does make up quality score, but so does ad relevancy and expected click-through rate. But you'll see your landing page experience go down. Do these algorithm changes that happen every time a small change is made also affect if you use manual CPC? It depends. If you are using manual CPC, it happens quite less. However, if you change around keywords and those keywords are not being reflected in your ads, your ad relevancy score goes down, and so does your quality score goes down. If you bid a little bit less, your expected click-through rate can go down. If you suck budgets, your quality score can go down because it affects your bids and budget. Changing things on your landing page, Cecilia, that'll affect your landing page experience, which also affects your quality score, which also affects your positioning, which also affects your CPC. Ad copy, yes, because if you're running manual CPC but you create a new ad and then you pause the old ad, let's just say Google's going to have to relearn a new RSA. In order for it to find what is the best performing ad. No matter what bidding strategy you're using, it's still going to have the ad rotation of best performing ad. There's pretty much a lot of stuff. The only thing that changing conversion action is going to affect a broad campaign if you're running manual CPC, which I don't recommend, but can be. So yeah, there's quite a few things that can be affected by changing it, even running manual. Brickhead, thank you for the answer. You're very welcome. Haha, I'm not the only one. I have 15 competitors in that ad group. I have the biggest impression share looking. So here, this is the issue, Cecilia, is look at your impression share, look at your top impression share, then look at your absolute top impression share. Reason being, though, is because if you have 15 competitors in that area, you may also be spending the most in search impression share. But if you are found at the bottom of the page, not doing you too much good. What you'll have to find out is what is the keyword that not only has to have a good search impression share, which is first page, but also that delivers you the most result. Where is that found on the page? If it's really far down, move that up. Use manual CPC to bid more aggressively. You can literally have search impression share in the 90% against Nike just by going after shoes. But if you're found at the bottom of the page, it's not doing any good. So just know how that search impression share is good. But if they are at the top, they are eating your lunch. And it may make more sense to show up half your keywords, but get twice as aggressive on the other half, and by moving that positioning up. Have you ever done Google ads for a car dealership? I'm wondering what the best strategy between YouTube, Facebook, and search ads. Yeah, my long story short, I used to be in the automotive industry. I owned a marketing business for the automotive industry for 9 years. My dad was a car dealer in Chicago. I cut my teeth in business in car dealerships. So, and it means everyone has, there's nothing different in car dealerships. You're all just a bunch of marketers. I was, my dad was, all of it. We're all just a bunch of marketers trying to outsell each other because we didn't make the product and we have to sell the product at the same price because we bought it at the same price. So, but yeah, I have a lot of experience in car dealerships. Here's the issue. Search ads perform the best, but they're also one of the hardest to equate to a bottom line. Your sales manager, the GM, is going to want to look at, okay, if I spend X, what did I get return? Now, there's many factors. You have, bad e-com people or bad, front end people. The appointment got skirted. The, people are rechanging into, Compass or whatever CRM tool that they're using inside the dealership and skirting each other's leads. There's so much tomfoolery that happens at a dealership. It's almost nearly impossible to equate an inbound campaign to a revenue. Same with it's even harder to an outbound campaign. But what we found to be best from a service perspective is inbound search. So Ford near me, Jeep Compass in stock, bidding on competitors like Auto Trader, Car Auto Bytel, Edmunds, all those are really good. Inbound search was the best. The person at the top is going to pay dearly for those. So if you type in like Jeep in stock near me, because especially right now with the car dealerships, the inventory from the silicone chips is so low, it is a dogfight to that top. So inbound search is absolutely where it needs to be, at least for right now, because of low inventory issues. But I would say that because of those silicone chips. But if you can own that top spot for cars that you have in stock at the dealership, you are in very good shape. So like Lincolns, they're getting sold on the truck before they even land at the dealership. And so they're being sold in transit, and they're not even doing dealer trades. So for car dealerships, I would say that if you can take the stock that's in inventory and you can create a campaign based on manufacturer and then an ad group based on model, and then turn on and off those ad groups when you have those models. And then inside of those ad groups that have the model, say stuff like, let's say Jeep Grand Cherokee, Jeep Grand Cherokee, Grand Cherokee L, like all those, and say like in stock, local, near me. Those are all really good ones to turn on and off and bid really aggressive on manual CPC without enhanced CPC enabled. Just bid really high. That'd be my recommendation. Hey John, question regarding offline conversion tracking. I wanted to know if any resources that talk about any of the specific additional data signals behind each lead. No, so what offline conversion tracking is going to be the same exact signal as an online conversion tracking. Google knows who that was. You just have to tell it after the fact that yes, they did convert. So I don't really have, and I don't know, I mean, basically, there's no like data signal that is going to be saying that's different for offline versus online that I've been able to find. We do this for a very large company. They spend $1 million a month. It's e-commerce. And I actually import all of the new customers into Google Ads as an offline conversion with a campaign that is not including that in conversions to see where it's coming from. But upon me doing that, Google basically says, yes, that's good signal to give Google. But because that is something that is going to affect the campaign's learning. Know this, anytime you count it as a conversion, it's generating a person in the list. That person in the list is being used account-wide for smart bidding. So if you say, yes, this was a conversion, Google's going to say, aha, I default to go to find more people like that. So it's a bad idea to import a conversion action that you shouldn't want Google to use as a signal, but it's like optimized targeting. It's going to look at those and say, I need to find more people like this, because that's a conversion, whether it was offline or online, it's a conversion. So just know that Google is going to automatically spend money based on what you're importing, especially if you're including it in conversions or it's a primary, not a secondary conversion action. But one of them is set with a higher conversion value for new customers. Does this make a difference? So if you, let's just say you had two different campaigns and one has a higher conversion value for new customers, it is simply going to, and I was going to say this, if you want to try it, there's really no bad reason not to do it. Husney, what you're going to find though is my hypothesis. I would actually advise you test it and just see if it works. But you may see that one doesn't run and one does run. It just may not run them both, or one will run at 90% of the spend, the other will get 10. So you can absolutely try it. I just think that Google's not going to treat them differently. I think it's going to treat them the same, unless again you have GTINs different. If you took two campaigns with the same GTIN, you're just going to see it flip flop. If you give one new customer value, it's just going to say, aha, I'm getting better result, higher ROAS, higher conversion value. Maximize conversion value is going to see a higher conversion value and just default that one. It's just going to ignore the other one. Portfolio bidding strategy plus shared budget on general campaigns. Do you use this in a recommendation uses? I don't. We actually, that large client that I just told you about that had it does $1 million a month in ad spend. They use a portfolio bidding strategy, and they didn't use a shared budget. They kind of did. They just kind of lumped it all in one and saying like, okay, you all get the same budget. Whoever wins wins. Their portfolio bidding strategy was kind of set to like set it and forget it. I don't see a use for portfolio bidding strategy, in my opinion. And someone out there probably smarter than me is going to say, no, I actually have, and this is how I've done it. I've always taken a very individual approach, all the way into what is my attribution model, what is my top conversion path, what is the goal that I'm setting to that campaign, what other campaigns are sharing the same user, I didn't see a portfolio bidding strategy that can take all those variations into account and then do it well, better, I guess, than doing an individual bidding strategy on one campaign. Quick note, 26 days into us managing that campaign, the client, we spent $30,000 less and made $550,000 more by wiping portfolio bidding strategies. So that's my experience. When comparing the shopping campaign type performances, wouldn't it be more accurate to compare standard shopping plus dynamic display remarketing versus smart shopping? Or is there any way to divide smart shopping performance based on placement type? So, Brick, you also need to run a outbound display campaign if you wanted to compare to smart shopping. So smart shopping is not just inbound with remarketing, it's also dynamic prospecting. And we can actually see this in real time. You'll see sometimes clicks will go from like 1,000 clicks a day and spending $500 to obviously getting 15,000 clicks a day for that same $500. And your cost per click just goes down to like a penny. So dynamic prospecting is actually something that it does infrequently, but when it needs to attract users, it will send thousands and thousands of users to the site at basically no cost. So you need to actually factor that in if you want it to be a standard shopping with dynamic display remarketing plus dynamic outbound campaign display. That is a smart shopping campaign. Is there any way to divide smart shopping performance based on placement type? No. Smart shopping is completely automated on placement. Unfortunately, you can't even exclude it if you wanted to. Not even the device. Thank you, John. You're very welcome, Cecilia. Awesome answer. So helpful. Didn't know you started marketing in the car industry. Yep. Yeah. It's awesome. Cheers, John. Cheers, Dale. How do you feel about Facebook remarketing versus YouTube remarketing? I don't like Facebook at all. I believe that how do I describe it? I forget, it's not predictive indicator, but whatever they're using to convert, to count conversions, Facebook remarketing basically will kind of default to say like, yep, they saw my ad and yep, they converted that was my conversion. It's not click based. And so that's what I don't like about Facebook remarketing. Facebook remarketing will just say, hey, someone clicked on a Google ad, went to the website. I passed by their feed. They clicked on another Google ad, went back to the website 3 days later and converted. Facebook says I did that. It's lying. So using products like Northbeam, I can see that Facebook is way overcounting, sometimes even way undercounting, but remarketing specifically way overcounts. So that's my opinion on it. But YouTube remarketing, love it. Especially because you can get view through conversions. In YouTube remarketing that says, hey, they didn't get a click, but they did see it. They watched it for 27 seconds and they converted. But we're just not going to count it as a conversions by default. I'm like, thanks, Google. You're a good guy. Or girl, whatever. Sahara, John, for Shopify. We do smart shopping with 300 ROAS, but most of the budget goes to the 50% of the products. Yep. And the rest of the 50 don't get enough clicks and ROAS. Yep. Separate them out. So I actually found that a good smart shopping campaign is a what they call a top performing products and everything else. Your top performing products, you're going to keep a very high budget, reduce it by about 20%, but exclude all of the other products that are not selling. It's very important you do it this way. Your main campaign right now, just pause everything else that's not selling and take your overall budget and reduce it by 20%. Take that leftover budget and stick it into a new campaign with all the products that weren't selling, and you're going to find that there's some cream that rises to the top that you can then launch over into your top performing product campaign. Great way to do this. This way you keep the high ad spend and and actually what's funny is even though you're reducing it by 20%, you're also removing 50% of the products. So you're actually, what you're doing, and those will get some ancillary clicks, like the 1 or 2 clicks kind of like per day kind of thing. But they'll actually make that budget more effective if you do it that way. So I would split them out between high performing everything else and just take 20% of the budget. What's nice about this is you're not spending enough for low ROAS issue. You make a sale on a small campaign, you get high ROAS. So it actually goes really effective. Think John and Hosni, I hope I'm not talking you out of it just for the sake of talking you out of it. I don't think that it's going to work. I've never actually been able to go after the same the same product in 2 smart shopping campaigns and it get equal distribution. I just never been able to do it. Let's see, starting a brand new account, and I'm 1 minute late, so I'm just gonna be the last one. Let me just see everybody that's coming now. this is it. We'll stop here. Anything new? I'm gonna end with Dave Vogel right there. Sorry, I mispronounced your name, Dave. I'm gonna stop with Dave here. Starting a brand new account without conversion, do you recommend smart shopping or manual CPC? And if manual, how long should we run it? So you can. It depends on how in demand that product is. Sometimes you can launch a smart shopping campaign and see instant success, like kitchen knives. It works really well. Things that may be a little bit less demanding and a little bit more competition, maybe run manual. I would actually recommend running manual CPC first, especially if you're not in this like hardcore, because what a standard shopping campaign is going to do is actually going to thanks, John, I didn't make the cutoff last week. You're welcome, Dave. Stop coming in so late. But if you can run manual first, or the standard shopping on manual, it'll actually tell you your feed quality. So look at search terms and the keywords and say, are these keywords even relevant to my product? And if not, then you got to update your feed quality, change your titles, change your descriptions, yada, yada, yada. And then see, once you have some sales and you look and you see your feed quality is good, then switch over to smart shopping campaign. Or maybe just switch over to a smart shopping campaign and throw some of the good products into that smart shopping campaign. And then exclude that in your standard shopping. But for brand new ones, I would say run standard shopping, just to get a sense of CPCs, how your feed quality is doing, and then feed us some conversions in the meantime while you're doing it. Are you noticing a difference in CPC costs and retargeting campaigns using third-party cookies versus first-party tracking or first-party data? Not at all. Google basically said, hey, our first-party cookie is also now your first-party cookie. It's not even a third-party cookie. And I'm like, so in terms of Google Ads specifically, third-party cookies like retargeting, your CPC is much lower, or not third-party, first-party remarketing is much lower. But Google's price fixing CPCs, so I don't think that the cookie is going to be the difference rather than Google's price fixing and restrictions. So what I mean by that is Google is not allowing you to run a keyword, as an example, unless it has enough search volume, which means unless there can be enough competitors, and then they set the minimum bids. So I haven't noticed anything yet, but that's just because of price fixing. Alejandro, in terms of local lead generation, have you ever had a certain home service campaign in certain niches convert lower than others? My conversion rate for landscapers is 15%. Not really. We don't run a lot of local lead generation just because they're fairly automated campaigns, and people are just like, hey, I just need traffic to my store. That's cool. But local lead generation, I've seen usually fairly high. I have not really run into a really low one, except for like arborists. Arborists are sometimes hard because there's quite a bit of them, and it's super competitive. So arborists I've seen. Emergency plumbers get really crazy expensive. You're not number one, you have horrible conversion rates. So no one really wakes up in the middle of the night to their couch floating in their living room and like, I got to go to the bottom of the page. They're hitting that first person. So just know that if local services, sometimes for high demand, if you're not at the top, you're going to probably cut your conversion rate in half. I'm starting an exclusive Google Ads agency by the name of PPC. That's amazing. Do you like that name, John? Yes, I do. PPC. That'd be awesome. Just know that your name kind of says the seer of PP in it. Just throwing that out there. John, do you have recommended budgets based on industry? I always default to you need to have over 2,000 per month. That's just a starting point. That starts can I at least identify if this is going to work or not in a specific campaign. So I always recommend at least 2,000. With the CPC costs going up, you might want to increase that to 3,000. But I usually say, hey, can I at least run like a branded, a general, a DSA campaign, a remarketing competitor, and a search, and get like $20 a day in each, at least just to find out where what fingers I'm dipping into these traffics are actually going to start to actually take off. So just know that if you start under 3,000, you'll need more time. If you start over 3,000, you'll have less time. But I need to know, can I launch at least 4 or 5 campaigns to identify where my success is going to start coming from? And that's in every industry, honestly. For industries that I look at and say, hey, the CPC, according to Google Keyword Planner, looks to be putting us at like #2 position for $50 a click. Yeah, I'm going to bump that up a lot. So just know that if you're looking at an industry, look at how much is it going to cost me #2, and then base your judgment off of that. All right, there's more here. All right, I have a little bit of time. Any comments on how negative keywords behave in shopping campaigns? I think they're getting leakier. Any comments on how negative keywords behave in standard shopping campaigns? Yeah, I mean, if you add negative, you're going to be pushing away that keyword. Google will just simply find like a different way to give you that keyword anyway. That's why like smart shopping is, it kind of stops that happening automatically. But Google's just going to basically say like, hey, this is a keyword that you got, and you exclude it, and they're like, okay, what about this variation of it? They're so broad that it's hard. What I would say is, rather than playing the negative keyword catch-up game, optimize your feed first. If you're like, God, I just got all these crappy searches, that means that your feed is not really set up that well. So try to optimize your feed first. I did try for almost a month now with the one with a higher conversion value, costs more conversion, getting a 2.7 ROAS after subtracting the added value. But the good side is the other one costs less. Yeah, and that's the thing too, is like you'll see that with that higher conversion value, Google's just going to favor that one. Thanks, John. You are the best from a PPC to another. Thanks, man. I use a 2-campaign priority structure with negs used to pass through the better search term. I think these negs are getting broader and letting through. Yeah, 100,000% yes. And that's kind of what I'm saying is like, Google's just going to find a different way to get you that crappy search. So feed quality is really, really, really important. If you're running standard shopping campaigns, just know that smart shopping campaigns are going to see those and say like, ooh, that was a bad search. They didn't stay longer than 5 seconds on the site. Let's stop that. And so it's an automated way to do it rather than, is the search good? Smart shopping is going to say, well, is the search good and did they engage? That's what smart shopping does to help like clean up all that crap. Hey, John, one quick one. What software do you use to blur out customer info in your videos? We use a video editor person. I don't know the name of the actual tool. I'll have to find that out. But we have a video editor that does all that stuff for us. So I don't know what tool she uses. How do you plan to spend New Year? I can't say that out loud because it's a surprise for our kids, but I'll let you know when I get back. Hey, John, when to use advanced bidding options like location bid, ad schedule, device bid? When you have a great amount of data. Here's what I would use. If you are using advanced bidding options like locations and schedules and device bids, do it based on data. So as an example, I'm using a first click attribution and my mobile traffic sucks. Okay, got it. If I'm using last click attribution, my mobile traffic sucks. That doesn't really matter because if they switch over to computer, that's default going to look better. So base it off of really hard data and a lot of data. If you know that the 18 to 24-year-old group just never convert and they always spend money and it's been happening for a month now, maybe 2 months now, then start to pause it. Just know that don't prematurely pause something because it didn't pan out yet. Make sure you have enough data and says, hey, this is my target market, but they're not converting. Doesn't matter. Just wipe it because all that data is about 50% accurate anyway. So if you see that a specific group or audience or device is just getting a lot of clicks and sucking up your ad spend and never converting, and you're attributing the conversions properly, both on the conversion action and the attribution model, then pause it that way. Just know that don't prematurely do it. Don't just say like, I don't think that male are going to work. Half those males inside of Google are probably females or another gender that they prefer. So just don't assume that it's going to work. Don't assume that you're going to be able to cut out the audience that Google says they are. It's half accurate anyway. You guys are legends. I only started following your channel last week, and I was impressed with. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Last thing. Okay, thanks. I don't think Google help docs are up to date with this. No, no, it's definitely not, and there never will be. Google's never going to be like, we like money, so we're just going to give it to you anyway. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. I will talk to you all next week, and yeah, have a great Tuesday through Friday. Thanks.